everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Caroline, and today I want to tell you a little bit about how I made it to Mexico and back as chronically. Before we get into it, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, turn on notifications, like this video, share the video, and of course you can always go follow me on my Instagram. It's also called Your Female. I have been to the sunny Mexico, and I want to start by saying I had the most amazing trip. I have a really dear friend who last year moved to Mexico because she met a Mexican man that she wanted to be with. So she now lives in Playa del Carmen with him, and I decided that I wanted to go visit her and of course see where she lives and meet her boyfriend and everything, and I just had the most amazing week of my life. But of course, traveling to Mexico from Denmark, which is in Europe, is a really long trip. I think if you count the train ride to the airport and then the flight to Zurich where I had to transfer, and then the flight to Cancun, and then driving from Cancun to Playa del Carmen, I think it was almost 20 hours trip. And as you might know, as chronically ill, that can be very difficult because we are already fatigued, we are already exhausted, right? So traveling that many hours and traveling in different time zones can just be rather terrifying to think about. And you can start wondering, well, am I gonna make it? It's all about being prepared for the trip. And I want to share with you how I prepared myself both to feel safe as chronically ill in Mexico, but also how I prepared myself for the trip, and just overall, how did I cope traveling so far, being so far away from home, as chronically ill. So let's just start from the beginning of the trip, right? First things first, you need to be prepared when it comes to paperwork. Like, I mean, I have a whole folder here full of just paperwork that I needed in order to go to Mexico. Funny enough, I didn't need a visa because I was a Danish citizen. Apparently, I don't even need a visa. I get like a stamp once I got into Mexico that confirmed that I was just a tourist and I was going home after a week, but I didn't need a visa. That was very interesting. But I did need a lot of other paperwork. And one of the first things I want to mention is travel insurance. Because if something does happen when you are abroad, you want to make sure that your insurance is going to cover it, especially if you're having a flare in a known chronic illness you have. Because at least in Denmark, I don't know if this is how it is everywhere, but at least in Denmark, you have to get pre-approved from the insurance company before traveling abroad with chronic illness in order for them to cover your chronic illnesses if they do flare up while you are abroad. So that's really important. Really, really important, because the last thing you want to do is be across the world and something happens and then you come home with a bill you can't pay. So that's just not, like, I wanted to make sure. I was approved, by the way, so no problems there. I also wanted to make sure that I had an idea of hospitals around the area in Playa del Carmen. And that turned out to not really be a problem. They had plenty of hospitals, and they also had good quality hospitals. I also, of course, because I am traveling with medicine, and for God's sake, don't assume anything when you go anywhere with medicine. You need to make sure you know what documentation you need when you're traveling with medicine. So I actually called the Mexican embassy in Denmark to make sure I understood what it said on their website. I wanted to make 100% sure that I had the right type of documentation for my meds, because I don't want to be in the airport in Mexico and then not have the right documentation and risk that they actually take my medicine away from me. Then you're just really far away from home, and it's life-dependent medicine, right? So you need to get all papers in order to feel safe while I was traveling, and of course to get my medicine into Mexico. And it was no problem. I just needed the doctor to write a little note about it, and then everything was fine. But that is just one of those things where it's like, that makes me feel a little more calm and safe, because not only did I have the right documentation, but I was 100% sure it was the right one because I contacted the embassy and had them confirm that I understood what I needed. So that is just me personally, but always make sure you have the right documentation, of course, for your meds. Then there was, of course, the whole flight there, and like I said, the whole travel was like almost 20 hours. That's a long time when you are already tired, exhausted, fatigued. And personally, I have lupus Crohn, which is a bowel disease. So my main focus, to be honest with you, was how do I not trigger my bowel on this flight? Because I do not want to have bowel pain on a flight. I mean, you're just trapped, right, in this airplane that's just thousands and thousands of kilometers up in the air, and it's like, I don't want to be that person. Like, I don't want to feel sick on an airplane and have bowel pain, and also I didn't want to trigger my bowel so that I would end up having diarrhea, for example, because I didn't want to be that person who was occupying the bathroom with diarrhea, and then when you get out, everybody can smell what you did and stuff like that. I shouldn't be embarrassed by it. I shouldn't, but for me, it is kind of humiliating. It's just, Crohn's can be such a humiliating disease, and I just didn't want to, like, no. I just didn't want to do that. I really, really, really didn't want to have diarrhea on the plane. And I feel kind of bad that I feel ashamed, to be honest. But I feel like that would be so humiliating to be that person on a plane, and it shouldn't be. It was me. I would never judge someone, because if you had diarrhea, there's something wrong, whether you're sick or not. Diarrhea is a sign that something is not right, even though it might just be a virus, but still, and I just don't want to. So I wouldn't judge people, right? But I just feel everybody judging me, and it's sad. But I just didn't want to be in that position. I didn't want to bowel pain. I didn't want to have diarrhea. I just wanted a quiet trip. So what I did is, because I know what my safe foods are, and I knew that I was not going to get any airplane food. No, because I didn't have control over what it was, and also how it was prepared. So I was like, I'm not going to do that. So I bought like a bunch of protein bars that I know my bowel doesn't act up on. And I also bought some nuts and some crackers and stuff like that, because that was safe foods for me. So I actually, for 20 hours, I only snacked. To be honest, I didn't have like a full meal, which was a little hard. I was a little hungry, but I just knew that that would be the best for me, and to only stay with my safe food. I didn't have any problems either on the way to Mexico or home. So I mean, like, that it actually worked, but it was a long time to not like have a full meal. So in Mexico, I needed to make sure my stay was planned around my illnesses and the fact that I do get exhausted and I do need to rest and be alone and be myself. So first of all, I actually decided to only go for 1 week, and a lot of people said to me, that's a long trip for 1 week, and I agree. But I just knew with myself that I'm gonna crash at one point, right? I know I'm gonna get out of my comfort zone. I'm gonna stay in a hotel, not my own bed, not my own bathroom, not my own normal safe surroundings. I'm also gonna get overstimulated, like going out sightseeing, and just dealing with being in a new place where you kind of need to figure out, okay, so I'm going this way now or that way now, and plus I was gonna hang out with my really, really dear friend, so I was always gonna be social, and on top of that, I was gonna meet her boyfriend, whom I've never met before. He was very nice. There was like no stress surrounding it. I didn't feel stressed out hanging out with the guy. But it is different when you meet someone new. You are, more awe in a way. So I knew all these things was going to get exhausted, and I tend to crash. At one point, I'm just going to crash, and that's it, and there's nothing you can do, right? So I figured it was better for me to have this 1 week where I could have a good time, plan rest, but still do a lot of things, and then just crash on the way home, rather than 2 weeks where I might crash halfway, or I would have to stay at the hotel and do nothing every other day anyway. So I would technically only experience like 1 week of vacation anyway, because I spent the other week staying in the hotel because I'm tired. So that's why I did it in that way, because I know myself. And I was right on the flight home from Cancun. I started to crash, and I thought I was gonna die at the end. I really thought, I was this close to having a mental breakdown when I reached Denmark and I was waiting for the train. I was like, I can't do this anymore. I want to go home. So I was right. I am gonna crash. I do crash. And I would have crashed in Mexico as well if I stayed longer. I would have. There's no doubt. And then I would have wasted my time in the hotel. So I might as well go home, right? But when I was there, what we did was that we would meet up almost at noon, like maybe 11 a.m. every day, which meant that I had the whole morning to either just sleep, take a shower, call home, go to the pool, relax, play a little game on my phone or whatever I needed to do, and then we would meet up and have some brunch or lunch, and then we would do something, go sightseeing in the afternoon, and then late afternoon, like maybe 4 or 5 p.m., I would be dropped off at the hotel by myself, and then my friend would pick me up again around 8 p.m. probably. So I had these like 2 to 4 hours every afternoon, early evening, where I could also just take a shower, relax, play on my phone, watch YouTube, sleep, whatever I needed to do. And that actually worked really well for me. Because then it gave me some breaks, and it gave me some alone time and some needed rest time. So that really worked wonders for me. I of course also wanted to protect myself from the sun when I was there, because I'm taking some Crohn's medicine that's called azathioprine, and that makes me a little sensitive to the sun. So I get sun rashes really, really bad. And also, I'm very heat intolerant, by the way. So that was a struggle for me while I was there. But when it comes to the sun, of course, and this is really something everyone should do, but especially if you are sensitive to the sun lotion, and get the highest amount of factor you can get, which in this case is 50, and use it, for crying out loud. The first thing I did in the morning was put on sun lotion, and I would put it on every time I went anywhere, multiple times a day. I also bought this really, really cute sun hat. I think it's cute. Like this. Let me see. Here we go. Just so I didn't get direct sun in my face. And it worked wonders as well. So I did what I could to protect myself from the sun. And when it comes to protecting from heat, of course, drink plenty of fluid. And I would drink, of course, water, but also juices and stuff like that. So there was a little bit of sugar in it. And one thing I also did was I brought electrolytes, which is something that can help you stay hydrated. You mix it with your drink, and then you drink it clearly, and it balances out salt and sugar in your body and stuff, so it helps you stay hydrated, right? So that can be a really good idea if you are heat intolerant, to bring electrolytes. You can buy them in the pharmacy. You can also buy them in many sports stores and web shops. So that is something I can recommend doing. That's how I protected myself from the heat. And of course, make sure to seek the shadow and get inside in very nice air conditioning. That was my best friend in Mexico. Another thing that I checked up on was, of course, getting vaccinated. And I did get some vaccinations, but there was this one vaccination that I couldn't get, and that was for dengue fever. I don't know if I pronounced that right. Dengue fever? Dengue fever, maybe? Maybe I'm pronouncing that correctly. But I couldn't get this vaccine because I am on some biologic immunosuppressive medicine. And when you're on that, you can't get vaccines that are alive, which this vaccine is. And that a vaccine is alive means that it is the actual illness you inject to the body. Whereas when a vaccine is not alive, it is synthetic material that you're injecting, something that looks alike, acts alike. Like, so it's not the actual illness, where when it's alike, it is the actual illness. And I can't get vaccinated with vaccines that are alive because of my biological treatment, because I could get really, really sick. So I was like, okay, starting to panic a little bit. But then I checked up on it, like Mexico's like huge country. And the region I was going to, Cancun and Playa del Carmen, wasn't one of the places where it was like most severe cases of this dengue fever. Like it was not that bad, but of course, if you could get vaccinated, that would always be recommended. But since I couldn't, I made sure to bring insect spray. And this, I think it lasts for like 4 hours at a time. So I put this on in the morning, the afternoon, in the night, and I of course made sure I never opened the windows in my hotel room. Um, so I only used air conditioning so mosquitoes wouldn't get in. And because this illness, it spreads by mosquitoes. I think I forgot to say that, but mosquitoes are the ones that transfer dengue fever to people. So in order to make sure that I didn't get a lot of mosquito bites, so I lowered the risk, I brought insect spray and I used it a lot. And I can say one thing, like, just remember that if you put it in your face, maybe not on the lips, because it tastes really bad. And by the way, it has to be what you call DET 40% for it to actually work properly when it comes to these mosquitoes that are carrying dengue fever. So another really good idea to protect yourself if you're in the same situation as me, and even if you could get the vaccine, even if like it wouldn't be a big problem for you if you actually got the virus, so on and so on and so on. When we are chronically ill, we are just more exposed to things, right? And we are just in a general higher risk of getting really sick of things. So it's always just a good idea to protect yourself against spray. So I crashed on the plane home, and I was very close to having a mental breakdown, but I made it home, and it's better to like crash on the way home than on the way there, really. So because then you can just go home in your own bed and relax and all that. But I've been struggling with jet lag ever since. I got home last Thursday, and it's now Tuesday. I'm filming this Tuesday, and I sleep like 14 hours a night, like for real. And the only reason I'm not sleeping now is because I'm forcing myself not to. The jet lag is crazy. Mexico is 7 hours behind. Um, so I can really feel the time difference when I got home, way worse than when I went to Mexico. It's way worse on the way home. And I've just been exhausted. And remember, when we are chronically ill, we are already exhausted, right? We're already tired. And I've already been overstimulated for a week. I already had to these long hours of travel that exhausted me. And I already had that illness crash where your body can't do it anymore. And then you have the jet lag on top of it. That's just a whole nother level of exhaustion. I'm like, whew. I also planned my vacation so that in the beginning of my summer vacation, I went to Mexico because I have a few weeks to get back on track before I have to go back to work. So that was probably very wise of me. Even though it took a lot of preparations, and even though I totally crashed when I got home, I'm still not over the jet lag. I'm exhausted. I'm really not feeling myself yet, even though it's been almost a week since I got home. I do not regret going to Mexico. It was the most amazing experience. I missed my friend so much. It was amazing to hang out with her, see where she lives, meet her boyfriend. And I had such a great time, and it was a really huge adventure for me. So I do not regret doing it, but it did take a lot of preparations, and I'm paying the price for letting myself take a trip like that right now. But it's okay because it was a good trip, and I do not regret it. It was amazing, and I can only recommend going to Mexico on vacation. It's an amazing country, so beautiful. You just have to be prepared, as always, as chronically ill when you travel. So yeah, I think I'm gonna get back to the couch now, done filming, because I'm like so exhausted. So yeah, But thank you for watching my video. I hope you could use some of the tips I gave you on preparing for a trip like that, protecting yourself on a trip like that. And I hope you have an amazing summer. And I'll see you next time right here on my channel. Keep following the video.